Aw, shit. Here we go again.
Welcome to the Sloppy Book Club podcast. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Celese. And we are on episode 5, right?
Yes, episode 5.
I had to double check with Jenny before we even started the video, and I'm still like 5, right? I don't want to give the wrong one.
Yeah, pretty sure it's 5, yes.
Yes. So on this week's episode, we're going to review a wine. We actually have the same wine. I sent Jenny a TikTok a while back of this guy trying this wine. And her bottle is totally different than my bottle. Mine looks like a wine bottle. Hers looks like a Hennessy bottle.
Yeah, it does.
And what I was going to tell her, and I wanted to wait until we got on the podcast, was I guess it's like the Hennessy of wine. So I don't know how to feel about that.
Great.
But all I know is that man drank this wine and got flushed. Like his face turned so red. You can tell drastically how much this wine was like. I don't know.
I'm excited, but I'm nervous about it because I already poured it and I can smell it from here. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, it smells strong.
Yeah.
It smells strong. Anyway, so we're gonna be reviewing this Port Taylor wine, or Taylor Port, whichever way it goes, I guess. It is it is 18% alcohol. So
is it really? I didn't even look at that.
Mine says 18%.
Oh, yes, it does.
So maybe that's why. So we have the wine, and then we're also going to do a book review of a book that we both read called Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. Excuse me. I said, you know me and names. I don't know how to roll my R's. As Hispanic as I am, I just.
It's all good. It's all good.
But if you want to say it the correct way,
it's Silvia Moreno Garcia.
There you go. You see, a little flair. Obviously, I don't have that flair. I don't have that spice.
That's all right.
Mind you, I grew up in New York to Hispanic parents, Puerto Rican parents, and I can't roll my R's. I can't even speak Spanish half the time. So bear with me. I'm sorry. And this was a very hard book for me to read in the sense of it being so filled with cultural language that I'm not familiar with, and I know some people might not be familiar with, and I kind of felt upset because I knew I was butchering the words and the terminology, even with the vampire names and stuff. I'm I know I'm not saying this right, and I did not even dare to ask Angel to pronounce them for me because I knew it was gonna be so bad. So
I wish that we had the physical books, because you probably read it on your Kindle, right?
Yeah, I read it on my Kindle.
So did I. So I wish we had the physical book so that we could put the names on here and then have you say them.
Embarrass myself.
It would be so funny.
Don't I do that enough for you? Are you not entertaining?
No, because even I had trouble saying some of the names. I had to there were some words that I would skip over, and I would just ignore that they were there.
I kind of understand what they're saying, but I don't. But yes, I can't pronounce it, but I know what you're trying to say. So definitely that was definitely me. Anyway, so we have that book review. But before we do that, we wanted to talk about some of the spooky books we've read, or Halloweenish vibes, witchy vibes. So we're just gonna, give you a little list of books we've been reading, the author, and just maybe a short description. I know a majority of our books, at least mine, have already been put on our Instagram, so it might be a little bit repetitive. So we're just going to do a little blurb. I don't know if that's the same for you, Jenny.
It is.
you're like the reading queen at this point. So I don't know if you've already put it on our Instagram.
I have, yes. I have. Or not. I'm done reading spooky books. So yes, okay. I have put them on there already.
Okay, awesome. Let's try the wine together. Are you ready?
No. Cheers. Oh, that is not bad.
It's not. Ooh. But there's a burn.
I could feel it. It's almost like you're actually drinking liquor and not wine.
That's why they said it was the Hennessy of wine.
That's really good.
I've never had a wine burn going down.
Same. Not your throat. Like I feel it in my chest.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know about this.
I don't know if this is a good idea.
I hope you have water.
I have a Truly.
So do I. I won't be touching that Truly because this is actually really good. So again, this is Taylor Port wine. If you're interested, it's a super cheap wine.
Yeah, you could get the Big Daddy like Jenny did, or you could just get, little slim bottle.
Mike said, he was like, you're gonna hate it because I'm pretty sure they cook with that wine. So I don't know. I didn't look it up or anything to know whether that's true or not. It says a
rich fruity taste and smooth finish make ruby red Taylor Port the perfect choice to pair with your favorite dessert. It's actually a dessert wine.
Okay. I wouldn't want to drink this with dessert. Because then you have sweet and then sweet on top of it.
No, I want this with like a Alfredo, a pasta, a ravioli.
Numb.
I know I'm hungry.
This is it really is good.
Serve over ice or at room temperature with a twist or with a soda. You can put this with a soda? That's different. Okay.
Maybe like a sangria.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Okay, Taylor Port.
Yeah, it's really sweet. It really is sweet.
And it doesn't taste like a red wine. Like it's not like that tart or bitter kind of background taste. But that whole smooth finish, I don't know about that because there was a little burning.
But afterwards it's fine.
Yeah, afterwards it's fine. Wow, that's
I'm excited.
I can. Wow. this whole episode might be on this wine.
No, because we typically don't have wine that we actually love on here. I know you've had a few fruity wines that you really liked on your end.
It's because I try to stay away from red wines because I know it's not something I enjoy. But then to be like, if we're gonna do wine reviews, I kind of have to, dip my toes in red. And, to end spooky season, we got to do the red wine.
It's perfect. Yeah. And the book we're doing is a vampire book. So
a vampire gory kind of, it's not like your typical sparkling vampire book either.
But we'll get to that.
We'll get that. Yeah, we'll definitely get to that. But yeah, let's go over some of those spooky books we've been reading. Do you want to go back and forth?
Yeah, we can do that. Because how many do you have? Like 3 or 4?
I have 3. Yeah, I have 3.
So technically I have 4 because the 5th one is the book we're doing today. So I have 4.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start off with our Shadows Have Claws. And that's a spooky anthology. And we just talked about this. Was it our last episode that I did it? Yeah, so it's a spooky anthology. It's all Latin lore and it's written by 15 Latin American authors. It's really good. It's all young adult about so many different types of like magical creatures and monsters.
I remember. I loved it.
And it was really good.
Yeah, definitely. So my first one is Wild as the Witch by Rachel Griffin. And this one was about Iris Gray and how she's a witch and society knows about witches. And She recently moved with her mom, and they opened up their own animal like sanctuary refuge. And one of their workers, who's like interning there, he's not a big fan of witches, and he doesn't know that, you know, her and her mom are witches. So he kind of like talks badly about them, and it upsets her. And what she does is, you know how if you were ever mad, you would like, I don't know if you ever done it or heard of people writing like bad notes or something, like a letter to someone they don't like, or a letter about their feelings and then burning it kind of thing. Yes. Well, she does this, but with curses. She'll make a curse, get all of those emotions out, and then she, you know, puts it back into the earth and kind of, you know, never follows through with it. But on this one occasion where she actually makes a curse for him, an owl comes in and swoops up, and the curse gets embedded into the chest of the owl. So now she has to hunt down this owl, or else this poor boy will get, you know, cursed and cause havoc. So that was a good one. I really enjoyed it.
It sounds really good. And after you posted your review, I see it at least 10 times a day on Instagram.
Really?
So many people are writing about it.
It's actually a really good read. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
Yes.
All right. My next book is Divine Destiny by Harmony Han, and this is an urban paranormal fantasy, and it's the 4th book in her series. So I read all 4. The 4th just came out, and it's basically about a woman who finds out she has powers, and she's meant to be like this protector / warrior against or between the human realm and demons. It's a really good series, and I'm sad it's over.
That's the worst. I hate when like series ends and it's like you fall in love with these characters and they kind of come a part of your life almost, and you're just like, oh, can't wait to find out what happens to so and so, and it's like, oh, I already did.
It's done. But this was it was 4 books, and it didn't need to go on any longer. And if it was shorter, it would have been weird, but 4 books was good for it. So it was a good ending.
Attached to series. I do. I get so attached to characters that I'm like, did they get married? Did they have children? How many children? Who takes children to school? Like I create scenarios.
So you want little novellas for all your characters. Yeah,
I kind of do. I really do. Yeah. So my next read was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I know that's a mouthful of a title.
It is.
But it's by, forgive me, please don't berate me. You know I'm bad with names. I don't do it in a disrespectful way, but Sangu, I believe, Mandana. Please, if I'm saying it wrong, I'm so sorry. But this particular book is about Mika Moon, and she's a witch. People do not know about witches in this book. So she's part of like this secret society of witches where they meet. I believe it's like every 3rd Thursday of the month or something like that. And they go over what's going on and just keep track of things. And she's becoming almost a little bit, I didn't put this in the review, but she has an Instagram and she does like little videos of witchy kind of things. And that's where she gets that initial email of, we have these 3 witches that we would love for you to teach. Come down. And she was just like, how do they even know if I'm a real witch or not, kind of thing. So she shows up to this house, and it's called Nowhere House. And sure enough, there's 3 young witches there. And this is unheard of because throughout her whole life, she was taught like witches couldn't be together. It's disastrous. Like, they will be found out. So, usually when witches are born, they usually become orphaned after a while. So she's just like, how did, 3 sisters wind up being together? But they're not biological sisters. They were orphaned, but they wind up growing up together. And when I tell you, this was like the sweetest found family kind of like book. Oh, I just fell in love with them.
Cute.
One of the sisters is the middle child. Her name is Terracotta. And I know, I knew you were gonna laugh. But come on, Mika Moon.
Yeah, okay.
So, but as funny as her name is, when I tell you this little girl is spicy and I love it, like I love her sass. I love that she gives Mika Moon a freaking run for her money. I just loved every like aspect of this book. I thought it was really, really good. So yeah, she's hired to teach these witches and she uncovers all these secrets and it's just an awesome read.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So far you've had 2 witches.
Yes.
2 witch books. Okay. My third one, The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Mm-hmm. It's a supernatural gothic horror and my top read of October. I am obsessed with this book. I love it, and I can't wait to get the physical copy. It's basically about a woman who meets a man, and she goes to his house to move in with him, and the house is haunted. It's so it's set in like Mexico, and I don't know about you, but any like Mexican lore horror book that I've ever read, absolutely love. They're so freaking good.
I'm not familiar with them.
Spooky. I love it.
But if it's anything like Certain Dark Things, because that's, you know, based in like Mexico kind of themes and stuff, I'm super interested in.
Yeah, you should read it
when we get there.
So good. Yeah, it's so damn good. I love it.
Awesome. So my next one is The Wilder Women, and although they're not witches, they have almost like a sixth sense, and it was actually an ARC read, so I won't go into too much detail about it. And it was by Ruth Emmy Lang, and I adored this book. This book was about the 2 sisters with like the sixth sense kind of thing. And we did it on the podcast. I believe it was the same time you did your
the anthology.
The anthology. And it's just about 2 sisters that have become estranged after the disappearance of their mother. So they decide to spend a week together to kind of, you know, reconnect. But the youngest sister, Finn, is using this opportunity to go find her mom before she goes back to, you know, her foster parents and things like that. And just like secrets, betrayal, sisterhood, family, all those good kind of themes are in it. I really enjoyed it. It was supernatural, obviously, because they have this sixth sense. One can look into the future and, you know, have premonitions, and the other one gets the echoes of the past. So it was a good read. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed it.
Were you gonna keep going into it?
Yeah, but then I was
no,
it's a dark read. It actually comes out. Did I mention when it came out? November 15th. So next month. Or later this, next
couple weeks.
Next month. Yeah, a couple weeks. November 15th. Check it out. It's really good.
All right. So my last one is Kingdom of the Feared by Carrie Maniscalco. I cannot believe you have not finished this. The moment it came out, I was on it, and it is so fucking good. Celise. Oh, you should definitely read it. So it's basically about witches and demons. I know, it's rough. So if you read the other 2, then you know about this book, but it's witches and demons, and it's centered around the 7 deadly sins. And I won't go any more into that because it's so fucking good.
I believe you, because the first one really got me. Like, I was just like, I need more. I just haven't had time to get the more.
Yeah. But the second one, I think the second one is even better than the first, if not they're equal. And then the third one is a good, like, jam-packed, like, it answers all the questions, but you still get more questions, but at the end you're like, okay, I see. It's really good.
It's really awesome. Good. I love that. All right, so those were our October reads, our spooky reads. I was gonna say weeds. Or spooky weeds.
Ooh, spooky weeds.
Okay. It might be the wine. I don't know.
Okay. But, you've had like 2. Oh, you haven't eaten.
It should be fun. It should be fun.
You'll be
anyway, but yeah, those were our spooky reads for Spooktober for October. And if you see, we're all themed out today.
Basic witch. And this shirt here is made by Emma Hamm, the author. She has an Etsy account and it's so freaking cute. Go check it out. Sorry, I had to plug that in.
Yeah, of course.
They're so cute and I love her.
That's great. All right, now to get into certain dark things.
Bye. I wanted you to try it again.
Silvia
Moreno
Garcia.
Yeah.
I tried, guys. I tried. So I thoroughly enjoy this book, especially because it's not my usual vampire go-to. You know me, I love romance. I like my sparkly, vampires.
Yeah.
Or if I'm going to do vampires, they have to kind of be like Dracula-esque kind of vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a good, different like take on vampires, and just like, I love like the goriness of it and the story. I would love to see it play out on screen. Like some of the scenes, I was just like, oh my God, that would be so cool.
Yeah. Like I saw it like in a big city with like lights and billboards and like futuristic things. That's all I saw when I read this book, which is amazing.
It was a mixture of like futuresque with like Sin City vibes.
Yeah.
Right? Like the black and white, and like certain colors will be probably prominent in that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're vibing. Yeah, definitely.
Got it. Come on, producers. Get it going.
Right. I've come across a lot of books lately that I'm like, this
you could see it. Yeah, you could definitely see it.
Because you picture it in your mind. So if a book can like play out in your mind like a movie or a series, like some books are a book, like you get the characters, you get the story, but some of it like makes pictures in your mind of like little still shots of like a skyline.
That's like a good ode to the author for making you see that.
Yeah, and she was very detailed in her writing, like very detailed. So it made it so much easier to fall into that, like seeing it visually, in your mind. So she did an amazing job doing that. Do you want to do like a little brief?
Yeah. So first and foremost, we're going to spoil it.
Yes.
So if you haven't read it, goodbye. Come back later. And also, trigger warning, it is, like Celeste said, it's very gory, it's dark, and it's violent. It's not your typical vampire romance type book.
Think like Blade. Because, in the Blade movies, there's like blood and gore everywhere. Like, this doesn't shy away from that. So
not at all. No. So if you generally like vampires, just be sure you know what you're getting into when you read this book, because it's not typical.
And it's not like a romancy vampire-y book either.
Not at all, actually. I didn't feel that romance, which is one
I
thing.
did not at all.
We can talk about that. So it's an adult urban fantasy mixed with dark fiction, sci-fi. That sound about right?
Yeah,
I think so. Okay, so it's described as a neo-noir, and at first, like, I know what noir movies are. It's like that old-timey, like, you have gangs and robbers, and then you have
the
like detectives. So that's neo-noir. So that's a noir. I didn't know what the neo-noir part was, so I had to look that up, and that's basically like the sci-fi fantasy aspect thrown into it. That's basically what it is. So it's basically a blurred line between good and evil, revenge, paranoia, anti-hero, and morally gray detectives.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what you see in this book, right? It's so perfect.
Definitely. And I love like the mafia-esque kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So two families at war, and then you have a vampire and a human working together to help find a way out of Mexico City to try and escape one of the like bad vampires from the story, all while avoiding police.
Right.
That's the gist of this entire book.
A morally gray, like, police department. Let's just say police
as a
department.
Whole. Like, yeah. As a whole.
Yeah.
So basically you have Athel. That's her name. Is that
how you say it?
Yes. I had to look it up multiple times to make sure.
How do you pronounce it?
Athel.
Athel?
Athel.
But it's ATO.
I know. I looked it up multiple times. And everyone was saying the same thing. Athel.
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 Athel. Okay.
I should have asked you how you said it first.
No, because I feel like people will really get on me. And
can you say it though?
No, absolutely not.
All right.
They might kick me out.
Like, you're not allowed to read anymore.
Yeah, you're not allowed.
So Athel is a vampire, and she has this genetically modified dog, and she's running away from this tragic thing that happened with her family. So her whole family was attacked and murdered by a certain type of vampire, which are called the Necros.
Yes.
And so she's running away, and she heads to Mexico City. Now, Mexico City is a place where everybody knows that there are vampires. So Mexico City has blocked off passage to vampires and kind of pushed them out to like everywhere else. So they don't want vampires in Mexico City. So she actually runs to Mexico City to try to find this other vampire named Bernardino. Yes. And he's supposed to help her flee to Guatemala to find her mom's Renfield. Renfield. I think that's how you say it. Yes. So a Renfield is like a human, like, right hand, like, I don't want to say slave, but
it's usually someone like they would have to trust, they rely on to do, like, you know, be around for the human aspect of things. And don't they also give blood too? Yeah,
so they're there to like feed the vampires. And like you said, they trust them, and they're basically like their right-hand person. They do things for them that they can't do themselves or won't do themselves. So again,
like in her case, because they lived outside of Mexico City, she would have used that person to go into Mexico City to do whatever, like anything she kind of needed or whatever.
Yeah. But Athel is too young. She's like the youngest of her family. So she's left all alone. And then she flees to Mexico City to find her mother's Renfield. So this is where she meets Domingo, who is like this street kid. He's a garbage collector, kind of left home early sort of thing. And I don't know what you thought about like when they met, but I thought it was fucking weird. When they were in this... When the subway or whatever.
Yeah, where he's staring at her and she's like, I need a friend. Yeah. You want to be my friend? Come with me.
It was like what I saw in my head was like, hey, you want to be my friend? Yeah. And he was like, yeah, are we going to have sex kind of thing? He didn't say that, but that's what I saw. Like, that interaction being, it was very weird. But anyway.
Friend, I friend. We friend.
We friends together. So they meet, and he agrees to go back to her house with her. At this point, he doesn't know that she's a vampire, right? Because she tells him afterwards. So they meet, they go back to the house, and she's basically like, if it was a weird thing for them to say, because it was, okay, so if you keep coming back here, I'll pay you kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is that what you got from it?
I feel like her initial, obviously she was lonely. She just, her parents were murdered. And to backtrack a little bit, her family was one of like, let's think mafia, right? one of her family was like top of their game, ruled that their home, like where they were from, like they were the shit. They were, you know, the top dogs there. And here comes Nick's, right? We already mentioned Nick. Did we mention Nick? Or we just mentioned Nick?
Not yet. Just Domingo and Ato.
Okay, but
we mentioned like the family, the Negros vampires killed her family.
So here comes these vampires from Europe. They came in, swooped in, and was just like, oh, we're gonna, you know, basically go on your turf and you can't do shit about it. Mm-hmm. And her family was like, no, we've been living here for eons, like since the gods were here. And the problem with her family's genetically is that they don't reproduce as often as the European vampires, because there's different kinds of vampires. Not only is it like mafia-esque, but like each vampire subgroup has different powers, have different abilities. And unfortunately for her, even though they're the oldest, they're the hardest to actually have children or bear children.
And they're mostly females in her vampires.
Yes. So when everyone was kind of killed, she really didn't have anyone left. So I felt when she met Domingo, I felt like at first it was for feeding. I think she just wanted someone to feed off of and to pay them to feed. But then she was also lonely at the same time. And she's never felt that before. She had a really big family. So she's never had to kind of like survive on her own or get her own food. So I felt like she didn't know what she was doing. Yeah. And she was also looking for companionship, but he was supposed to, you know, she's supposed to feed off of him. And I don't think she meant to like have him live either, if that makes sense.
You don't think she meant to have him live?
Yeah, I think at first she was just, because she would have to trust him to come back and not tell anyone.
Yeah, because at first she didn't want, all she wanted was a one-time thing.
Right.
Feed off of you and then leave. But then afterwards,
you know, I'll pay you, because she looked at him and she was just like, okay, he's not, she could smell him. So she's like, okay, he's not on drugs. He looks pretty healthy. You know, this is a good kind of option for her.
Yeah. Which I thought that was such a cool, like, little detail. You'll see that throughout the book where she mentions things like if somebody has like an STD and they drink off of them, they would get sick.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought that was like a cool detail, and you never see that anywhere. Not that I want to read about that, but I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that
that they added.
That, you know, they may not necessarily smell it right away, but they'll taste it and their body will reject it.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So she finally decides to let him stick around and decides for him to be her Renfield. So now she's going to trust him. And I think she mainly did it because she didn't have anybody else and she needed somebody's help. She couldn't do it alone. So they finally decide to do that together. She explains to him what his role is as a Renfield, and then he agrees. So that happens. Then that brings us.
He kind of likes her, so he's like, "Oh, maybe you know."
The part where he asked like 3 times if they were gonna have sex. I was like, "All right, give it up, Domingo. Move on." And she doesn't at all show that she wants him like that. It's the whole time she's cold and she's kind of like closed off, but she wants to trust him and wants him there for her needs. It's a business
transaction. I'm paying you to be here.
Right. So then that brings us to Rodrigo and Nick. So Nick is a Necros vampire and Rodrigo is Nick's father's Renfield. So Nick's father, Godoy, has sent off Rodrigo to find Athol. So they wanted everyone in her family dead, but she escaped. So he sent Rodrigo off, but he didn't send them alone. He sent them with a couple other goons and his son Nick. And I think for like to kind of put him out there and make him work, I guess.
He's still young and, you know.
Like a spoiled brat, like a rich spoiled brat, sort of. So that's who Athol is actually running from. So he's kind of like the leader. He's kind of trying to find her, but here comes Nick, being the spoiled little brat he is, constantly going out and partying and trying to find other vampires to feed off of. But Rodrigo,
when I picture Nick, picture Nick like one of those wannabe like fuck boys with his like with like a Letterman jacket, fucking
oh my god,
unbuttoned, like look at me, I'm Rico Suave, kind of like that's what I got from Nick, and I wanted to punch him.
Oh my god, that is so funny because I saw him as like this out of high school, he's 20 something years old and still goes back to like be with all these young little high school girls and trying to be like, you know,
you're like, aren't you like 22, dude?
That's what I see in my head. So he's like fucking shit up for Rodrigo, and they're supposed to be low profile. And Nick ends up actually meeting a girl, taking her outside and killing her. He feeds off of her, and his power is to he kind of like possesses them and can make them do anything that he wants.
So he has to exchange blood with the person. So if he gives you his blood, then he can basically mind control you. But it becomes like poisonous to you at the same time. So if he does it to a human, you basically, after a while, your brain kind of like, it kind of made it seem like disintegrates a little bit. Like you get sick and you die basically. So it's fatal no matter what, whether he gave you his blood 1 time, 5 times, like you're going to die from it.
Yeah. And what I thought was kind of creepy and weird was when he was killing her, how he was like, oh, your name is Athol.
Yeah.
And he made her say that her name was Athol, which I was like, oh my God, he's the real fucking creep. Yeah. He really is like that fucking 20-something-year-old.
He's that scary like guy who doesn't know no means no.
Yes.
And he's also that scary guy, which is triggering, that scary guy that like no doesn't mean no to him. God forbid you kind of like outsmart him. He wants to like, tear you down because of it.
Right.
Like he's scary. One of those scary kind of like guys that, unfortunately are out there even now without being a vampire. Like
the thing is you can literally smell those guys from a mile away. You already know who they are. I mean, hopefully a lot of people do, but I know I can smell those guys from far away. And
he's kind of the one like you're intimidated to like go against because you don't know how they'll
and they always have following. They always have people with them.
Super scary.
Yeah. And we didn't mention that this book is multiple point of views.
Yeah.
Like a lot of point of views.
Yeah.
What is it? Athol, Domingo? Does Domingo have his own?
Yes.
Yeah.
Domingo, Athol, Rodrigo, Nick,
and then Anna.
And then Anna.
Who I'm going to talk about now. Yes. So Anna. Poor Anna. She's the fucking morally gray cop who you think is going to be a great cop. Detective or whatever she is. So she's
claims to be,
yes. So she came from elsewhere where she used to deal with a lot of vampires before going there. So she transferred over to kind of give a little bit of a better life to her daughter, to put her in a private school. And she ends up in a police department, and most of the stuff they give her is vampires, but she wanted to get away from that because she was done putting herself in that kind of danger and wanted to take care of her daughter. So, but they keep giving her in this police department all the dirty work that has to do with vampires because nobody else wants to deal with them because, like I said earlier, they had pushed out all the vampires from Mexico City. So and there's very little left.
You know, no vampires. It should be a little bit safer. And, you know, she came in with a lot of experience and, you know, women coming in with experience, men in a
male-dominated job. Yep, they did not like that. So basically, her role in this book is covering that murder that Nick did with the human girl that he killed. So she's covering that murder. She's tired of it. She doesn't want to deal with it, but she's like, well, somebody has to because I have a daughter here, so I don't want her to be in danger because there's vampires here. So then she's approached by this woman, and I don't remember what her name is.
I think it was Nikki.
Nikki?
I think so.
Nikki? Kiki? Kiki? Okay.
Yes,
when you said Nikki, I was like, no, that's not it. So she's approached by her and she basically they want to get rid of Nick and all of them and Athol. They want everyone out. Like they don't want any of them there.
They hate vampires. They don't want anything to do with them. They're like, I want them eradicated. They shouldn't even be in Mexico City. We will pay you to make this happen because we know you have experience. Yeah.
So that's the one thing about Mexico City is they pushed out all the vampires, but then a bunch of different human gangs kind of took over. So when you have an overrun of gangs in a city, there's going to be gangs in cops' pockets pretty much. So they all kind of work together and they're all dirty. So she meets with her and she wants to get rid of all these people. So she wants Anna to bring Athol and Nick, Rodrigo, all of them to this gang so they can do what they want, basically kill them. And I'm over here thinking like Anna is like this good detective. She's gonna protect Athol at some point because Athol at this point for us, she's a good vampire. She's done nothing wrong.
I mean, she killed that old man, but I mean, she needed to eat.
She did, but whatever. I mean, she would have died probably eventually. But the moment, like, you think she's great, she's this good cop, but the moment this person, Kiki, goes up to her and gives her like this deal that she can't turn away, she fucking caves. Yeah. So she's talking about all these dirty cops, and then she caves right away.
And it was like Kiki approached her because she was part of her own gang or affiliated with Crimson something. Yeah. They were like basically like a top-notch gang too. And they were like, we'll supply you the ammo, the people, like whoever you need. They actually also had pictures of the vampires, something that she didn't have before. Like they had a lot of good information for her. So I get why she did sign up with them and decided to work with them, but I also thought she would like switch it on them. So, but you know, I see that.
Well, I mean, she is untrustworthy. Like she flipped right away anyway.
Yep, she sure did.
So there's a bunch of, I don't know if we want to really go into like everything that happens afterwards where Domingo and Athol kind of are still running from Rodrigo and Nick, and they kind of meet every now and then. There's like this huge fight.
It's a huge fight, yeah.
Athol gets hurt at some point. We didn't mention that Domingo actually meets with Bernardino. Yeah. So I think backtracking, so they've been running for a while, and like you said, her purpose of going to Mexico City is to eventually get to Guatemala, and in order to do that, she has to meet with Bernardino
and he has to refer her to her mom's, what were those people called?
Renfield.
Yeah. And then from there, that Renfield is supposed to help her get to Guatemala. So she couldn't approach Bernardino herself at first. So she sent Domingo to do it. And when Domingo went there, he was, at first, Bernardino was like, no, I'm not helping you. That goes against the code. Like, I've been living here stress-free in my haunted house with cobwebs and pissy cat all over my house. Yeah. Domingo said it felt like piss everywhere. Like,
oh my God.
And to say he didn't have no lights, he was using lanterns. He had one of those old record players, like Bernardino.
But there's a purpose for that. He's fucking old. He's like one of the most dangerous old vampires out there.
Yeah. Think of a hunch, like he had a hunchback, but don't let that fool you because he's still super fast. And his vampire power was that he could suck the life out of you or give you life, which was pretty cool. Yeah. But he was scary.
He was scary. And they're rare. There aren't many. What is it? A revenant? Yeah. I think there aren't many revenant vampires left. He's one of the few.
Yeah. And he's one of the only vampires that actually stood in Mexico City the whole entire time. He said he was never going to leave his home, no matter who asked him to leave. He stood there. So the fact that she even knew where he, still lived, and she was hoping he would be there, was luck on her. So she sent Bernardino to Bernardino. Go there with a bead, which was the bead that, her mom gave her. It was like, if you're ever in a pickle or if you're ever in Mexico City and you need, help, give him this and he'll help you. And sure enough, he eventually caved and he was like, yeah, I'll help you. So then Domingo goes back to Athol.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. And he's like, hey, he said he gave me a name. And then from that name, they had to look it up on the computer, and then they found her, and then they went to her and approached her. And at first this woman was like, no, your mom left, we're not even friends. And she was like, oh, that's not what my mom said. My mom said you were my best.
You're the best.
You're the best. You were the best as a friends. And
we are not portraying that very well because it was nothing like that.
But she was basically kind of buttering her up. My mom said, you're the best at what you do. You were the best Renfield she had. You were amazing. You were like a sister. Whoop. Reeled her in. And she sure did. Okay, right. She was like, fine, I'll help you with what do you need? She was like, I need a car to get out of here. And I need papers, like passports and stuff like that. So she was like, for the both of us. And Domingo was like, oh, I'm going with you. So she was
like, he wasn't hoping for it.
Right. So she agreed. She was just like, I haven't done this in a while. I've been, working clean for years. I haven't done, these kind of things. So I have to get in contact with my old contacts. So you got to give me time. And they were like, okay. So they were supposed to, keep it low key, not run into trouble. But of course, that doesn't happen. They run into trouble. There's that big fight between Nick and Athol, and she gets injured. So what Domingo does, he's like, I know I can't send her to the hospital. I have to ask one of my friends. So he asks, he winds up asking, is it Quinto? What was his friend?
I don't remember his friend's name. I just remember Jackal, who ends up owning the place.
Right. So he goes to his friend who was a vet tech for like 2 years or something and was like, hey, she needs to be bandaged up. He's like, that's not what I do. Like, I deal with dogs, because his boss, Jackal, does dog fighting. So he was like, please, she needs help, blah, blah, blah. So his friend agrees, and then that's when he finds out she's a fucking vampire. He was like, wait, she's a vampire? I'm not helping you. And Domingo was like, oh, if you don't help me, I'm going to sick her dog on you, and he's going to kill you. So he was like, okay, I'll do it. So he winds up helping, and what happens is that I think his name was Quinto or something with a Q. He winds up going to Jackal and telling him what's happening. And Jackal, word on the street is there's a vampire that people are trying to find, and there's, you know, a bounty on her head, and he's looking at dollar signs, and, you know, he winds up trapping them, calling Nick and Rodrigo, and was like, hey, I got your vampire, come get it, I want my money. So then there's that big warehouse blow up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they finally escape. They end up, Athel and Domingo end up back with Bernardino.
And this is the first time Bernardino and Athel actually meet, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yep. I think it is. He ends up basically helping her, kind of giving her some life back, because Athel is now poisoned with Nick's blood.
And I really like Bernardino because he was like, no, you can't come here.
And Domingo, he's been living all these years by himself, not bothering anybody, just like in his own little house with his little Renfield. Yep, he didn't want any part
I gave you the name. I helped you as much as I could. You're not staying I'm here. Done. But obviously he winds up caving. But I love that part where he was just like, no, you can't be
here. So while that's happening, I think this is when Nick and Anna meet.
Yes.
Is that when they meet? And he ends up actually poisoning Anna as well, to kind of have her do his bidding and tell him basically everything that she knows about Athel and Bernardino, because she ends up finding out about Bernardino because after Athel and Domingo leave, they end up taking a cab, and so that person ends up going to the police department, and long story short, Athel or Anna now knows where Athel is or who Bernardino is. So she ends up telling Nick about it because she gets poisoned by Nick. So I really like that, because it wasn't that she just like gave up the information like I thought she was going to. She was forced to give up the information. Yeah.
And they held her daughter over her head. They're like, we have people at your house. They could break down the door, kill your daughter. So either you tell us what you know. And Nick was also upset because Athel had like injured him really bad. Like I think blew off his like jaw. So he was pissed. So instead of having like this cordial like compromise, I give you information, you give me information, he was like, no, I'm gonna bite you and you're gonna tell me. So that's basically what happened. She was just caught in the crossfires and got the worst of it, basically. So he bit her, gave her his blood, and like now, no matter what, she was gonna die anyway. So
right. So they end up they ended up talking to the Renfield again, right? And Domingo and Athel, and she basically told them that there's no way that she can get them out now because there's so much going on. They've closed all the borders. And this is when Domingo's like, well, we could try to go through the landfill and try to get out of here. So that was their plan. But then they're found by both the gang and Nick and Rodrigo. So they're found by both. Everything blows up. Everybody's being attacked. Everybody's being killed. Right? So
just a big clusterfuck.
Yeah. And then this is where we didn't even mention the sexy scene. We'll ignore that. I didn't like their spicy scene at all.
I
Just so
didn't
you
either.
know,
I
I thought it
actually
was
like skimmed
weird.
through it and like passed it
Yeah.
because I didn't feel like that connection. I knew like it wasn't gonna amount to anything.
That's why earlier when you said like this isn't a romance, and I was like, yeah, no, there's no romance. There is a spicy scene, but it's not. It is the most awkward, weird, but it works for the book.
It works for the book, yeah.
Bad. It works for exactly what the book is, but it was weird and awkward, and I didn't want to read it.
And it's a spicy scene between Athel and Domingo, obviously.
Yes.
She winds up caving. She's lonely, and Domingo's there, and he's all for it. And this poor
I think she just did it for him. I don't think she did it for her at all.
And he's in love with her, and it's that love that's dangerous, because it's that love that I would do anything for you, I will kill for you, even though I've never done that before, but it's toxic, basically. And so like they have that moment, so like they're kind of connected, and he's like, oh, this is my girl, whatever, and
this is my boo.
like Bernardino is like, you don't play with your food. You don't play with your food.
Exactly what he said, which was great. So then after this is when that whole big like scene, like the gangs, Domingo and Athel and Bernardino and Nick and Rodrigo, everybody's kind of fighting. I don't know how detailed we want to get into that, but Athel ends up kind of escaping a little bit, running away.
She kind of wins.
Yeah, so she escapes and she starts running away towards like the landfill to try to get to Guatemala, but then Nick shows up and he has Domingo now. So he's calling out for her, and she's feeling guilty. She can hear him, so she ends up running back and ends up basically killing him. Long story short. So she kills him, and then she leaves Domingo. I was like,
in the dust. She was like, bye.
Yeah, she didn't. So she planned this whole time to leave to Guatemala with Domingo and her dog. And Domingo's like, well, your dog's dead. And then she's like, I can't take you with me. And she leaves. And Domingo's left there by himself. But then he sees the dog. What was his name?
So the dog wasn't completely dead. So
so the dog wasn't dead, and he ends up finding like a carriage, like a garbage picker, and takes the dog and walks off into the sunset while Athel goes the other way, and that is all.
The way she left him high and dry. I
was shocked. I did not see that ending coming. But if it would have ended the other way, where she took Domingo with her, a whole happy ever after kind of thing,
I don't think it would have made sense.
No, it wouldn't have worked.
Even from the beginning, I have made a note, like, not only is it not a romance, but I knew what they were doing wasn't going to amount to anything. Like, I felt it as I read it. Like, she wasn't connected to him. I honestly felt like she honestly was just lonely. She just needed someone that she could kind of vent some of her emotions to, because she did lose a lot. She lost her mom, she lost her sister, she lost her aunts, like her family, So like, I understand needing that comfort, but like Bernardino said, you don't play with your food. She was never going to take him on, because that's not the vampire way. Like, there hasn't been a vampire who had a human consort or a human, lover or anything like that. So it's unheard of. So I didn't really think like, oh, they'll be the exception. Like, it just didn't feel right. So, like I said, it wasn't a romance, but it was really good.
It was really good. I definitely really liked it. Yeah.
It was definitely different than anything I've ever read, which was really good. I loved how all these different vampires from different parts of the world all had their own characteristics, had their own abilities. Like, I love that it wasn't one size fit all for them. I love that some of them, could go out into the sunlight, but it was draining for them. And then I love that some of them couldn't because it would burn them completely. So I just love all those different like little gems almost.
Yeah.
Like how her mind works when it came to these vampires. It was just super cool.
I know, like the small details of Ethel's like little quirks, like how she would see like a lot of little things and need to count it.
Yeah.
Like she would see something and said, oh, I feel the desire to count it. Or she'll sit there actually counting little things. Like all those little quirks were really good in this book. I really liked it.
It was really good. But like we said, it's gory, it's different, it's not very romantic.
It is not sweet at all. Like there's no part of this book
that's not like glorified, beautiful vampires.
No.
This is like horror vampires. Like, like nothing.
It's almost like what's that movie? 30 Days of Night. They're in Alaska.
And it's like Josh Hartnett.
Yes. It's almost like those. I know, right? That was a good movie though.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? I always thought they would do like a second part to that movie.
But they'll fuck it up. They'll fuck it up. That was such a good, solid vampire movie.
Yeah.
But these vampires are just like that. They're very gory, dangerous. They're not like sweet or whatever. But
I haven't thought of that movie in years.
It's so good. You have to watch it now.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's
a really good one. Yeah, it was creepy.
It was. It gave you some jump scares.
I definitely did.
But yes, that was Certain Dark Things by
Silvia Moreno Garcia.
You see, she does it so much better than I do. But yeah, so if you're interested in that, we definitely want you to read it. Tell us what you thought about it. Give us some gory vampire books. I know spooky season came to an end, but we're so hooked on thrillers. So give us some thrillers. Please. We would love to continue to do that. Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Just hit us up in our comments. Let us know what you're reading. What was your go-to October read? What was your top October read? I know Jenny had one for this month. What was it again?
The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas.
Awesome. My top October read would probably have to be The Secret Society of Irregular Witches. I just love that found family story. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
That would have to be like I love the banter that was in there. I love the characters in there. I love the representation that was in it, the diversity of it. So I really enjoy that one. So that would be mine. So in the comments on our Instagram, let us know what your top October read was. And I think that's it.
All right. Till next time. Bye.